Welcome back to Wash Talk, everyone, the Car Wash podcast. I'm your host, Rich DiPaolo, and joining me today we have Troy Huisman, founder of Superior Control. Troy, it's so great to see you, and thanks for doing this interview with carwash.com.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, topic I've written about in the past a few times for Professional Car Washing and Detailing magazine. Cole often referred to as the brains of the car wash operation, and that's controllers, and specifically the control system is what we're here to discuss today, Troy. You know, it's something that operators rely on heavily, but maybe not too many are completely familiar with the ins and the outs of the control system. So wanted to get you on the program to answer some frequently asked questions. And I know your company, Superior Control, serves many industries, not just car wash. So when you looked at this car wash market, Troy, from an outside perspective, what gaps or problems did you see in the car wash world when you first noticed that maybe inspired you to enter the space?
Yeah, I mean, when I first did it, this goes back quite a ways. I would say probably about 20 years ago is when I first stepped foot into the back room of a car wash tunnel. And as I was walking through it, one thing I recognized really quickly was the technology was all very old that was being used, and so in the industrial control world, I also quickly learned that that in the industrial control, the technology is also lagging even behind consumer technology. So like right now we can, we've got our cell phones and we got AI and all this stuff, right? And industrial control technology is lagging in that it doesn't quite have those same capabilities and features. And even more so, what's lagging behind the control, industrial control, is the car wash industry, where they're at with stuff. And so it's almost like there's this like 20 to 30-year gap between what is being implemented in the car wash versus what is actually available in the marketplace. And so that was one of the things I saw immediately that was like, oh man, like you walk into this back room and you feel like you're like, like you're walking into one of the original computers. Like it's all, the whole room is a computer, it's all the relays and all that kind of stuff. And like, that's what it kind of felt like when kind of peeking behind the curtain in a back room of a car wash. It was like, man, this is all old technology. There's some really good opportunities to upgrade this, use newer systems, less expensive, smaller, more reliable, all that sort of thing. Like increasing the throughput of the tunnel is obviously, what the car wash owners really need and want. And so upgrading that older technology to newer technology was one of the areas we came across that was big opportunity.
Yeah, speaking of opportunities, so when you started speaking with operators initially, when you first entered space and saw this new tech or older technology, what inefficiencies or common issues did you help open their eyes to that maybe they didn't realize were issues before you stepped into their building?
Um, I would say, I mean, a part of it is replacement parts. And I know we're talking about tunnel controllers, but also we do a lot with MCCs as well. And so in the motor control centers, there's a lot of older motor starter technology that was used. It's come a long way in the last 20 years, but there's less and less that I'm seeing now. It used older technology. It used like a Bakelite material. It's like a really brittle plastic and really expensive, hard to find. And so, by upgrading those types of components and using different components like that, it allows the operators to then be able to source and get parts quickly, and get up and running much faster because of the availability of some of those parts. And so, yeah, that was definitely one of the areas that we came in and we were like, wow, that's, that's a big area that helps them to save money and increase their throughput.
We often say at the magazine, Troy, that no two car washes are the same. So I understand like a custom solution or a custom control panel is something that you see is valuable for car wash operators. So how could a custom solution improve reliability, responsiveness, and really long-term performance?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I definitely see that same thing. Like there's no two tunnels that are the same. Even when you have a larger operation going on where they have, if they're up in the hundreds of washes nationwide, I don't know that I've ever actually, even in that situation, seen two tunnels that are identical. There's always something that's a little bit different. They're improving in some way. They're changing something, and yeah. So having the tunnel control system as well as the motor control system, all those things like being customized to fit their needs is obviously huge. And so particularly like with also the owners and operators are all different as well as distribution, right? So distributors are all very different from each other and how they operate. And so what we do is we come in and we go, okay, how do you guys operate as a business? What do you guys need? What do you look for? And what are the things that are going to help you succeed and empower you to be able to have the confidence to service your customers? And we've noticed that when we take that approach, as opposed to like, hey, this is our MCC design, conceptually, it's essentially the same for all of their customers. They don't really, like, sure, it's great. They have a factory and they make widgets, right? But like, we're going to go in and take the time to get to know the customer and go, look, we're gonna get to know your needs and actually modify something to fit your needs as opposed to you trying to fit our needs. And so I think that that's where we've found a lot of success is being able to get to know each individual customer, and then provide for them what it is that they want. Because you get one operator, he might be a tinkering type, and he's one or two, three locations, and he's like, I want to get in there and change it myself. And it's like he doesn't need that super expensive motor control system or tunnel control system. He just needs something that's gonna wash his cars. But when you got these multi-operator chains, like they need the insight. They need the technology that sends them reports and they get data and things like that. And so yeah, it's just a matter of just like getting to know the individuals and understand what their needs are, and that helps them then increase their efficiencies and their throughput. Because if they're trying to use a product they don't need, they're trying to fit a square peg into a circle hole. They're going to be fighting that thing all the time, and it's going to be a headache, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, such an important point to make, Troy. Obviously, the operator community as a whole is so unique, and I'm sure this is in other markets, but they're just in various stages. No two car washes are the same in terms of temperature and the factors that result or affect clean, dry, and shiny. But even the operators themselves, like you said, some are just happy with the one or two locations they have, and then there are others that have corporate backed, private equity backed partners and sponsors, and they need that information line item by line item. They want all this insight,
Yep.
and it's critical for them to see. So, as you mentioned, some are hands on, some are more hands off. So, as automation has accelerated across the car wash industry, where do you see automation that is having the biggest impact inside the tunnel today? Are there any functions or features that are still kind of being underutilized by operators?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I mean, it's I think it could be overwhelming for particularly with smaller operators, the amount of functionality that there is available. But I think that I'm going to kind of lean on more of the motor control center side of it than the tunnel control side. As I feel like there's a lot of technology that's being used in a motor control center that is not being utilized effectively. So, for example, there was a buzzword of VFDs, right? They everybody was talking about adding VFDs on all their stuff, and that's going to save them energy, and it's going to do this and that. And as people started implementing those systems, it was like, great, you got the hardware in place, but is the software actually doing it, programmed in such a way that's actually going to save you money? Because you can control a VFD in a way to save you money, and you can control it in a way that acts just like a motor starter would, and you have zero cost savings or energy savings on that side of things. So the thing that always surprises me is when I go into some of the bigger operators, they have all these VFDs in, and none of them are programmed to save them any energy. They still have air gates on their blowers, and they have VFDs, which I'm a full supporter of air gates. They save energy as well. But not having the VFD program to reduce its speed in between vehicles, or go into an idle mode, or ramp up slowly, all those things, like those things all save energy. And 9 times out of 10, I'm like, your system's not even programmed right. Sure, you got the right hardware, and it's very, very expensive hardware, but you're not getting what you're supposed to be getting out of it. It's wild. It blows me away.
Yeah, certainly want to take advantage of everything. Especially, I hear as water is going to become a bigger issue in this industry. Things like resource savings, energy savings, water savings. If operators aren't feeling the effects of these things nowadays, surely in the future it's going to be a bigger and bigger um, demand to kind of reduce some of these, or maybe emphasize some of these savings. But later on in this interview, Troy, I do want to talk about the future of all this. But just we've been having a conversation here for a few minutes, and I can't think of another conversation I've had where AI and artificial intelligence hasn't already predominantly taking over the conversation. So I'll just try to insert a quick AI question in here for you, Troy. But where is the biggest impact AI is having today in the control system area of a tunnel car wash? Are you seeing any big effects yet, or is it more possibilities of AI integration?
Yeah, I mean, the possibilities for AI are endless. I mean, car wash industry, outside the industry, like, it's endless. And even within the industry, um, I have not seen it successfully implemented yet, but I think that where AI could be most useful is by monitoring equipment. I think people are starting to monitor their equipment in car washes. The issue is there's a larger capital expense up front for having the equipment to be able to just simply monitor what's happening. But the information that's being produced and integrating that then with an AI interface that is then able to start like intelligently like trending. So for example, every, I mean, it's like every so often you might lose a blower or something like that, and you're monitoring current, you're monitoring voltage, all those things, right? Over time, AI is going to learn like, oh, when we start seeing these voltage and current trends, we know that motor is going to go bad on this day at this time. Like, that's the power that AI has to offer us. And so imagine your system, instead of it, you having a failure and you got to shut down your tunnel, your system is like, hey, you're going to have a failure on this date. And it's actually accurate. It's not trying to sell you something. It's not trying to sell you a service or whatever. Having a system that actually tells you like, hey, you might want to get that motor on ordered for your vacuum producer, because I'm starting to see some things that actually represent when this other vacuum failed over in some other part of the world, or whatever, or other, it's going to consolidate all that data and use all that data as like this superhuman brain that is able to see everything, right? So over time, we're going to see a lot of intelligence into that sort of thing within the car wash industry. And so now you're going to be able to like have zero downtime. You're going to be like, oh, this is going to fail tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Well, guess what? After closing tonight, we're going to replace it during closing hours. Cool. We're never down. we replace it. We're not, and we also can trust that the information we're being told isn't from some sales guy that's trying to make a sale on a $10,000 motor or whatever.
Right, right.
Like this is like this that's powerful to me. That's exciting to me because like you give that power to the end user and they're able to then at ease and comfort knowing like I'm going to get the information that I need that isn't biased by an individual. And so yeah, that's I don't know. I as you can tell, I'm a little passionate about that because I'm just super excited about where this is going to go.
I'm sure any operator out there who's listening to zero downtime and no disruptions to flow or anything like that, they're going to be pretty optimistic and happy to live that reality in the future as well. But all right, so I wanted, now that we've talked a little bit about the future, let's talk about car washes that have partnered with Superior Control and up their game in the tunnel with a great control system. Can you share any real world examples where Superior Control maybe redesigned or upgraded a panel and delivered measurable increases in throughput and uptime for an operator?
Um, yeah, I mean, do I have a time for a little bit of a story?
Absolutely, sure.
Great. There was one of the first guys I ever did business with in the car wash industry was actually a bit of a criminal. Um,
Okay, that's some way to start a story.
some of the people that I know in the industry know exactly who I'm talking about, but I'm just gonna call him Bob.
Okay.
And so if I know any Bobs out there, or if you're listening, I'm not talking about you, Bob. I'm talking about the Bob of this story. It's not actually a guy named Bob. So don't worry, Bob. Your secrets are safe with me.
Fair enough.
But anyway, so I met this guy and he walked me into a tunnel and we were looking at some of the stuff, typical stuff, old technology, using, ancient parts that seemed like they were from the 70s. And I get to know this guy and eventually I find out that he's connected to somebody that was part of the point shaving scandal years ago in college basketball. I'm not going to say which college because I might, specify a little bit too much. But there were a couple of times in doing business with him where I was just kind of like, but I mean, in the end, he was a decent guy. Well, I shouldn't say that because ultimately I ended up having to basically fire him as a customer because he stopped paying his bill. But that's a whole nother story. So we're dealing with this guy Bob, right? And he's walking me through this stuff, and yeah, it's just typical old technology, and he's like, "What can we do better?" And he was a part of a distribution team too. So it was we were working through the distributor, and so they kind of had their equipment set that they wanted, and some of the key features, and so we were able to kind of walk through everything and like give him a price that, like in this particular situation, we didn't really know like how some of the stuff was structured in terms of list pricing and discounts and stuff like that. We just like, hey, this is our price for your product, like our sale price to you. We're not gonna go out and retail market this thing. And anyway, so ultimately we ended up saving them like I want to say like 40% of off of what they were currently paying, and so they had like really deep margins on their product then moving forward, and it was a smaller package. And it gave them all the information they needed. And back then, this was before some of this information sort of stuff that's been coming out. And so it had some indicator lights on it and things like that. But in the end, that actually helped them to be able to troubleshoot things a lot quicker. They could send their team out and they're like, oh, this is what, there's a low level on this particular piece of equipment or whatever it is. Yeah, and we really satisfied them in that way. And I had to learn the lesson the hard way, that the car wash industry, historically, uh, attracted a lot of criminals. Like, right, it's all cash basis, right? I mean, no, it's no secret that there were criminals that got involved in the car wash industry for that very purpose. Whether laundering money or whatever it is. And so I think that some of that culture within the car wash industry still, like, was sort of permeated through even in the early 2000s, is when I entered the industry. And so I think that might have been a part of what I experienced there. And I had to learn that lesson the hard way, that in the car wash industry, you got to get your money up front before before you deliver. Otherwise, you may not ever get paid.
I can neither confirm or deny these accusations, but yes, certainly not the first time I've heard of some bizarre requests out there.
I mean, a lot has changed. There's definitely a lot has changed. The cash business is obviously not as prominent. With the advent of pay stations and memberships like that, that was a game changer. Those two things in the industry changed the game, like probably in the biggest way in car wash history. Like having those two components, because now you're not dealing with cash basis. You're essentially, a lot of the quote unquote criminal activity started to subside. There's still some bad apples out there, but nowadays I feel like there's a lot more good people in the car wash industry than there was, at least when I first entered.
For sure. So if you do have a customer, a new customer, Troy, can you walk me through, like, say, a Rich's Car Wash, right? I come to you as a person that doesn't really have an advanced control system at my car wash. What's kind of the timeline? How fast can you get me to savings once I have the conversation with you? What's needed? Hardware, software? What's do I have any downtime? Is there what can you tell me about the process to get me up and running, I guess?
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that. So there's another example, that a story I want to share. There was a customer. So we're based in Phoenix, Arizona. We had a customer that called us that they just started their scaling, right? So they're like, "Hey, we're just kind of like getting started. We actually bought 4 locations in Texas, and we need to rehab all the equipment, and then, which also means the motor controls and tunnel controls are also going to be needed to be replaced." And so the interesting thing was, in that particular instance, I happened to be going to Texas like the next week, and I was like, "Hey, can you send me the addresses of all these locations?" And they're like, "Sure." So they send me the addresses, and I'm like, "Man, this is like, if I took a loop around this Texas area, it's probably only about an hour drive time from start to finish to hit all 4 locations." I told him, I said, "Hey, do you mind if I just walk through your tunnel and, walk through the equipment room and jot down some notes?" And they're like, "Yeah, that'd be great. Like, we have a list of all the things that, we're going to swap. We'll give you that as well. And then everything else is going to stay." So I'm like, "Cool." So I walked through the whole tunnel. I walked through every motor horsepower, all the voltages, got it all. Talked to him a little bit about like installing air gates for the blowers, as well as potentially some VFDs, and things like that. And so there was actually, was it 3 or 4? I think it was 4. Anyway, so I walked through all the locations, got them all done, gave him a proposal within probably a week after I walked the site. And so in 2 weeks' time, they really didn't even have to provide me with that much information. I was able to give them that price. They were ready to pull the trigger. And so that's obviously a big factor, is like, hey, whenever you get your deposit money and your contract in place, and that's when we can get things started. Right. From there, it took, what was it? I think 6 to 8 weeks on the first delivery, and then they wanted to stagger every 2 weeks for the other ones. And so we were able to ship the first one out in a 6 to 8 week time frame. Then another 2 weeks later, ship the next one. Another 2 weeks later, ship the next one. And then once they got the equipment showed up on site, they had installers that were able to do it all, and they had their own construction timelines that they were following. So I guess in that particular case, it was about a 2 months to 3 month time window from the first conversation to when things were up and running. And now, obviously a lot has changed. That particular story happened pre-COVID. I think we've recovered for the most part from a lot of that went on, all those shenanigans then. But yeah, that's a pretty typical situation for us where we get to know the customer, go out, take care of things, and then they start to realize those savings. Right when they get the equipment installed. So yeah.
And any special training or any specialized knowledge somebody needs to maintain and kind of read these systems to improve
Uh,
efficiencies?
You know, not necessarily. I mean, it depends. That's it depends answer.
Okay.
The customer, right? If the customer has a team in place, a maintenance team in place, an installing team in place, there's really no training that has to happen. I mean, I'll spend time with customers for about an hour or two on startup and just talk a little bit about the system. They might have a few questions here and there, but it's all pretty self-explanatory. Especially with the systems that we try to put in with touchscreens and HMIs, the user interface is really a critical part for us, where we want to make sure that customer is able to navigate it. I mean, we've got our cell phones, right? Like you don't need a user manual on how to use your cell phone. you know, like
Yeah.
that's the approach we take when we design our systems. It's like we're giving them a very complex machine. And so we don't want them to have to go through a really big learning curve and training process in order to use our product. So we're going to design it in a way that makes it intuitive and makes it easy to use. So there's very minimal training that's required. Now, I'm not sure about your experience. I don't know. Have you ever been in a tunnel controller or an MCC or wired up anything?
Me personally, I have not. I stick to the pen and the paper. So I have.
So it might be a little different to get you up to speed on something, but you might be able to set some of the touchscreen parameters and make sense of all of that. But when you start opening cabinets and stuff, that's where obviously a technician is somebody that's needed for things like that.
Sounds good. So it sounds like for if you got the right setup and the right people, it's a pretty plug and play
Yeah.
situation. As long as you're not doing any nefarious or criminal activity, it's pretty easy to install and get up and running with. But we talked about this a little bit earlier in the conversation, Troy, and obviously wash sites are becoming more connected, and certainly control panels are evolving. How are control panels evolving to integrate more data and more remote diagnostics and predictive insights? What role will smart panels play in the future? Let's say the next 3 to 5 years here.
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying before, with the advent of AI, I think that there's going to be a lot of advancements in as this information is collected and we get historic data in the AI models. That's really going to be a huge impact. I also want to talk a little bit about something that's not necessarily tunnel control or motor control system related, but that I'm still waiting for to happen in the car wash industry. I'm
All
still
right.
waiting for an equipment revolution. So rather than top brushes, wraps, blowers, arches with chemicals spraying out, rather than that, I've been waiting for robots to take over the tunnel. I can't wait for that time when that happens, because that's going to be so much fun. I mean, and really a lot of the technology is there. I think one of the things that one of the I think barriers to entry for robots right now is some of the the environmental issues in an existing tunnel environment. Like there's a lot of water, a lot of chemicals, a lot of moisture, a lot of that kind of stuff floating around in the air that's in a enclosed tunnel. And so robots have, IP ratings that go up to like IP67, but the IP67, when it's exposed to a car wash environment, which I think is very different than other corrosive environments, industrial environments that they're involved in, they seem to break down. Like even with LED lights, even IP67 will have a tendency to break down. I'm not saying it always does, but it can tend to break down. And so I'm just, like I said, I'm just like really waiting for that day where somebody's like, you know what? I'm going to build a tunnel and it's not going to have any equipment in it at all. It's going to be all robots.
Wouldn't that be interesting? Well, we just wrapped up our December issue of PCND magazine, and there was an advertisement in it that was promoting a robotic solution. So those days might be coming sooner rather than later, Troy. We'll have to wait and see, right?
Yeah.
All right. So looking ahead, are you outside of robotics, right? And fewer mischievous people in the industry, let's say. What emerging technologies or trends, whether they be in systems, automation, safety, tunnel intelligence, what emerging trends or technologies do you see having the biggest impact on how operators both build and manage tunnels?
That's a tough question because I believe in the next 10 to 15 years, I believe that cars as we know it will not be what they are, which will change the car washing industry in a big way. There'll still be cars on the roads. Yes, there'll still be cars needing car washes, but the way that we move around as humans around the world is going to change drastically. And particularly because of the advent of AI. I mean, drones have already, even before AI, had been something that have been being developed and automated in ways that to me just don't make any sense, just because somebody way smarter than me designed them. But I did recently see that there is essentially a human-sized drone you can actually pay to ride in Las Vegas right now. And so like,
Is that on the ground or in the air? Are you talking?
no, in the air.
In the air. Wow.
Yeah, so you can actually
Personal transportation drone aviation. That's
like you remember the Jetsons, right?
of course.
Man.
How about that? And you were saying this is currently available in Los Angeles right now.
You can buy one for $250,000.
Is that all? Okay.
But well, like the first car, like what is it? Ford, Henry Ford. Everybody was like, "You're crazy! No, nobody's going to be able to afford this thing. That's crazy. What are you doing?" He's like, "No, I'm on a mission. I got a vision. Everybody's going to be driving these things in the entire country." And here we are driving cars around like nobody's business, right? Nobody even thinks about it. But Henry Ford, when he came up with that idea, he thought everybody else thought he was crazy. And now here we are, looking at a $250,000 personal drone. And I guarantee you in the next 10, 15 years, mark my words, we're going to be flying drones around.
Wouldn't that be something? I'm sure a lot of people were doing this interview here during the holiday season, actually on Thanksgiving week. And I'm sure a lot of people wish they had a personal drone to fly them from point A to point B as they're dealing with cancellations and delays in the airport. So, all right, 10 to 15 years. Yep. That I'll mark it on my calendar, Troy, and I'll have to check back with you then. So I appreciate you taking some time with me today to walk me through some of the things that Superior Control's been involved in the market and where you see the control system playing a part in the tunnel car wash, and maybe where it's going to play a role in the future and what that looks like. So certainly appreciate you taking some time during this holiday season to do this interview with carwash.com, Troy.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I loved it. This was great. I hope to be invited back.
For sure.
Wasn't too much of a nerd.
No, you're good. All right, Troy, take care.
Yep.